Listen closely. Most people live their lives as pawns, obedient, predictable, disposable. They chase comfort, follow rules, seek approval, a self-imposed prison camouflaged as freedom. And because of that, they will never hold true power. They are victims of the big lie. That conformity brings security, that empathy is a virtue to be blindly offered, and that honesty is always the best policy. These are the narratives spun by the powerful to keep the masses docile, predictable, and exploitable. But you didn't come here to be average. You came here because you hunger for something more, an edge that makes you untouchable, sharper than 99% of the herd. You sense the underlying deception, the unseen strings, the invisible chains that bind the uninitiated. Welcome to Dark Codex. This is not motivation. This is weaponry. The mind is the ultimate battlefield, and only those who master its shadows can rise above the prevailing illusions. Today, I'm handing you 10 psychological secrets forged in the fires of reality, rooted in Machiavelli's brutal clarity, sharpened by dark psychology, and hardened with cold stoicism. These are not mere tricks for petty gains. These are the immutable laws of human behavior, the hidden mechanics of control. If you understand them, you control the game. If you ignore them, you become the game, another expendable unit in someone else's strategy. Each secret will bend reality in your favor. Each principle will cut through weakness. By the end, you will see people for what they truly are: masks, fears, and impulses waiting to be controlled. You will understand why the masses are so easily swayed by manufactured outrage, by fleeting trends, by the illusion of consensus. You will see how the very systems designed to keep you safe are, in fact, designed to keep you weak, dependent, and constantly seeking external validation. The world operates on a different set of rules than what you've been taught. Are you ready to discard those comforting lies and step into genuine power? To wield the kind of influence that reshapes your reality and dictates the narrative? To stop being the exploited and become the exploiter of opportunity? If you're ready to step into that power, comment this phrase right now: "The Codex is mine." Now let's begin. Number 1, the power of detachment. If you want to outthink and outsmart 99% of people, the first weapon you must sharpen is detachment. Most men are slaves to emotions: fear, anger, envy, desire. They get provoked, baited, and manipulated because they react. A man who reacts is already conquered, his strings openly visible. His emotional volatility is a glaring vulnerability, an open door for any shrewd adversary. They wear their hearts, their insecurities, their fleeting desires on their sleeves, making them tragically predictable. But a man who observes, who remains cold and unreadable, holds the leash. He becomes an enigma, a fortress of calm in a world of emotional chaos. Machiavelli, the architect of strategic power, wrote that appearances matter more than truth. In the theater of power, perception is reality. People will try to pull you into their storms, into their manufactured dramas, their emotional quicksand. But if you remain detached, a silent observer of their frantic flailing, they'll drown in their own chaos while you stand untouched. Detachment makes you unpredictable. It makes you feared. For who can truly fight a ghost? When you are not bound by emotional chains, you become the one who decides, not the one who begs, not the one who reacts on impulse. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of control. It is the Stoic ideal applied with Machiavellian precision. When others scream, you whisper. When others panic, you breathe. When others chase validation, you walk away. That stillness, that unshakable composure, is power. The room will bend towards you because silence unnerves the weak, the attention-starved. They cannot stand someone they cannot read, someone whose internal state is a locked vault. So learn to master your face, your voice, your energy. Become a mask no one can pierce. Inside you may feel the fire, the cold calculation, but outside you remain stone. When you operate from detachment, you force the world to play by your rules, not its fickle whims. This is the first step out of the exploitation trap, where your emotions are constantly leveraged against you. You must claim it right now in the comments. I am the stone in the storm. Say it. Because until you anchor your mind in this truth, you'll keep being tossed around by the winds of other people's emotions, their manufactured crises, their attempts to pull you into their orbit. But once you own detachment, you'll already be smarter, stronger, and colder than almost anyone you meet, immune to the petty manipulations that ensnare the majority. You will become a strategic force, unburdened by the emotional baggage that cripples the herd. This is the foundation of true power. Number 2, the psychology of silence. Silence is not absence. It is pressure. It is power. It is the weapon of kings and manipulators. Most people spill their thoughts recklessly, desperate to be heard, terrified of empty space. They are conditioned by a society that equates constant communication with value, that fears the void. So they talk themselves into weakness, revealing secrets, fears, desires, and vulnerabilities without realizing it, an open book for anyone with a strategic eye. But when you master silence, you create a vacuum that forces others to fill it. And in their nervous chatter, their desperate attempts to break the tension, they hand you their mind. The Machiavellian thinker knows that silence is a battlefield where the impatient lose and the stoic win. In negotiations, in arguments, in seduction, silence unnerves because it forces the other to guess your thoughts, your intentions. And guessing breeds insecurity, making them susceptible to your subtle influence. He who speaks less is assumed to know more. He who withholds words is seen as dangerous, a hidden depth they cannot fathom. Power does not shout. Power whispers, or, more potently, says nothing at all, letting the unspoken create an aura of formidable presence. Think of predators in nature. The tiger does not roar before the kill. It moves in silence, a lethal shadow, making it strike when the prey is least aware. You must learn this. Your silence will weigh more than the words of 100 men, because it implies a depth of thought, a hidden agenda, a calculating mind that unnerves those who rely on noise. But silence does not mean passivity. It is an active blade. While others babble, you listen. While others emote, you observe. While others react, you calculate. And when you finally choose to speak, every word strikes like a hammer because you have conditioned the room to wait for your voice, to crave your input. The man who fills silence with noise is forgettable, a drone in the chorus of mediocrity. The man who fills silence with presence is unforgettable, a looming figure whose every utterance carries immense weight. From today, train yourself to speak less, watch more, and let silence do the intimidation for you. This is a profound shift from the conventional wisdom that urges constant self-expression. It challenges the exploitation trap of always needing to prove yourself, to justify your presence. Your value will no longer be measured by your volume, but by your strategic restraint. And to prove you understand this secret, comment the phrase, "My silence is a weapon." Write it, declare it, claim it, because once you do, you stop being a victim of noise and start being the master of it, the one who dictates the pace and temperature of every interaction. Your silence becomes a strategic asset, a tool for observation and leverage, allowing you to gather information while others expose their weaknesses. Number 3, the law of controlled emotion. Emotions are the strings that control the puppets of the world, and most men are nothing more than marionettes, jerking to the pull of fear, lust, and rage. The media exploits these strings daily, generating outrage for clicks, fear for control, and desire for profit. This is the exploitation trap in its purest form, turning individuals into predictable, consumable data points. But if you want to rise above, you must not cut those strings. That is naive. You must learn to hold them in your own hands, becoming the puppeteer of your own psyche. Dark psychology teaches us that people are astonishingly predictable when emotions take over. Anger blinds, desire weakens, fear paralyzes, and the man who knows how to remain composed while others unravel becomes the hidden architect of every outcome. He sees the chaos as an opportunity, a moment to step in and subtly guide the direction. Machiavelli understood this implicitly. A ruler who cannot govern himself cannot govern anyone else. And the man who erupts, who lashes out, who reveals the storm inside him, hands over his crown to the one who remains calm, unruffled, strategically superior. Stoicism sharpens this law into steel. Do not suppress your emotions into a dangerous repression. Channel them. Let anger fuel discipline, a relentless drive to overcome. Let fear sharpen caution, turning potential threats into calculated risks. Let desire become focus, an unyielding pursuit of your objectives. But never let any of them dictate your actions. Imagine a duel where your enemy screams and thrashes, consumed by his own fury, while you stand silent, breathing slow, eyes locked, cold as stone. The battle is already won, not with the blade, but with the mind, the superior psychological position. The world is addicted to emotional outbursts, outrage, jealousy, pride. They show themselves like flashing signals, betraying intent and weakness. You must learn to read them, use them, and turn them against those who display them so openly. But for yourself, you must build an inner citadel no one can storm. A fortress where your emotions are soldiers under command, not rebels running wild, disrupting your strategic objectives. The one who controls his emotions controls his destiny, and the one who manipulates the emotions of others controls theirs. This is not about being heartless. It's about being strategically ruthless. It's about protecting yourself from the constant emotional warfare waged by society, by media, by those who seek to profit from your predictable reactions. And if you understand this truth, then etch it into the comments below. I am the master of my fire. Number 4. Strategic observation. If you want to rise above the herd and become smarter than almost everyone around you, you must cultivate the discipline of observation. Because the one who sees all controls all. Most people stumble through life blind, consumed by their own noise, their inner monologue, their desires, their anxieties, never realizing that every gesture, every tone, every slip of language, every micro-expression betrays hidden truths. They live in a fog of self-absorption, missing the critical data points that govern the real world. To live with power, to navigate the complex geopolitical and economic landscapes that shape our lives, you must sharpen your eyes into weapons. Study people in every setting, at work, in relationships, in competition, in casual conversation. Observe their reactions to success and failure, to pressure and praise. Observe the subtle cues that reveal their true motives, their unspoken desires, their deeply buried fears. Patterns will reveal themselves to you if you are patient and disciplined in your scrutiny. The nervous tapping of a foot shows anxiety. The quick glance downward reveals submission or dishonesty. The rushed tone of voice uncovers desperation. The way they hold their body, the direction of their gaze, the subtle shifts in their speech patterns. These are all open books to the strategic observer. In business, this makes you a strategist who can predict moves before they happen, anticipating market shifts, competitor tactics, and internal power plays. You become immune to the big lie of surface-level presentations, seeing the underlying currents of ambition and fear. In relationships, it makes you a master manipulator, understanding what others crave and what they fear, allowing you to orchestrate outcomes without ever appearing coercive. You become magnetic because people feel that you see them in ways no one else does, not realizing you are simply collecting data. In social settings, it makes you a figure of quiet authority. For you perceive the hidden hierarchies and unspoken rules, moving with a confidence that comes from deep understanding. And in battle, whether corporate, political, or personal, it makes you lethal because foresight is a blade sharper than steel. You disarm opponents before they even draw their own weapons. Machiavelli, with his stark realism, said, "A prince must be both lion and fox." Strength alone is nothing without the cunning to read the terrain, to understand the subtle shifts in power dynamics, to see the invisible threats. Strategic observation extends beyond people. It applies to environments, to opportunities, to timing. A fool rushes into action, driven by impulse or the perceived need to appear busy. A strategist waits, watches, and moves when every variable is aligned in his favor, when the probabilities are overwhelmingly on his side. This is how empires are built. This is how fortunes are accumulated by those who see the market shifts before anyone else. This is how careers are accelerated, and enemies are crushed without even realizing they've lost, simply because you saw the trap coming long before they sprung it. Observation also protects you from the exploitation trap of hidden agendas and false alliances. When you read the room, you avoid traps. When you study the crowd, you see who pretends to be an ally but hides envy in his heart, who offers a hand while sharpening a knife behind their back. You must train this skill daily. Watch without reacting. Listen without interrupting. Analyze without revealing your conclusions. Over time, you'll develop a sixth sense where nothing escapes you, where patterns emerge from chaos, where the invisible becomes visible. Knowledge is not gathered only from books, but from silence, from paying attention to what most ignore, from dissecting the hidden signals that govern human interaction. The world is a chessboard of signals and moves, and those who fail to notice remain pawns forever, perpetually surprised by the inevitable, always reacting, never initiating. To anchor this truth in your mind, comment the phrase, "I see what others cannot." Because the eyes that see clearly are the mind's true weapon. And the man who observes with precision will always be 10 steps ahead in every aspect of life, immune to the deceptions that ensnare the unwary. This is the art of seeing the world as it truly is, not as you wish it to be, and leveraging that unfiltered truth for power. Number 5. Mastery of self-discipline. If observation sharpens your mind, then discipline forges your body and soul into an unbreakable weapon. Because without self-discipline, you are nothing more than an intelligent slave, chained by your own impulses, a brilliant mind trapped in a weak vessel. Look around you. Society is meticulously designed to make men weak, to drown them in endless distractions, notifications, algorithms, instant gratification, to feed them comfort until they grow soft, harmless, and utterly predictable. It tempts them with pleasures that drain their strength, dilute their ambition, and erode their capacity for sustained effort. This is the ultimate exploitation trap, turning free will into a consumer's compulsion. But if you want to rise above 99% of people, if you wish to escape the planned obsolescence of the modern man, you must embrace the law of self-discipline across all dimensions of life. In your mind, your body, your work, your relationships, your habits, and your emotions. The Machiavellian thinker knows that control begins within. If you cannot command yourself, your own actions, your own impulses, how will you ever command others or command your destiny? Discipline is not glamorous. It is not about fleeting motivation, which comes and goes like the wind, but about structure, force, and relentless consistency. It is waking up when you don't feel like it, training when your body screams for rest, studying when your mind craves distraction, walking away from temptations that would enslave lesser men. It is the unyielding commitment to your higher purpose, even when the path is arduous and the rewards are not immediately visible. In health, discipline makes you strong, lean, and intimidating. Your physical presence becomes a silent statement of power and self-mastery. In business, it makes you focused, relentless, and immune to the whims of fleeting market trends. You become the consistent force that others cannot contend with. In relationships, it gives you the power to withhold, to resist, to never become dependent on another's validation or emotional whims, making you an unshakable presence. Self-discipline also profoundly elevates your intelligence and strategic capacity. When others binge on noise, entertainment, and endless scrolling, you devour knowledge, cultivating insights that separate you from the masses. When they waste years in mediocrity, you compound results daily, quietly, coldly, inevitably, building an empire of skill and experience that few can match. Machiavelli warned that fortune favors the bold, but he quickly added that boldness without discipline is mere recklessness, a gamble born of impulse, rarely a strategic move. Discipline is what makes bold moves calculated and lethal. The disciplined man is dangerous because he is not swayed by impulse, not enslaved by pleasure, not broken by hardship. He is steel, unyielding and resilient, and steel bends the world around it, reshaping reality to its will. The truth is stark and simple. Freedom belongs only to the disciplined. Every undisciplined man is owned by his vices, his laziness, his weaknesses, his unchecked desires. He is a pawn to his own biology, easily manipulated by external forces that understand his lack of internal control. Discipline transforms you into the master, and everything else, your desires, your fears, your habits, into the servant. This is not about self-denial for its own sake, but about self-mastery for the sake of unparalleled power and freedom. It's about shedding the chains of instant gratification and embracing the long game, the strategic accumulation of strength. So declare it with conviction in the comments. My discipline is my crown. Because once you wear that crown, forged in the fires of consistent effort and self-control, no one can take it from you. And you will walk through life with the rare, cold confidence of a man who has conquered himself before ever conquering the world. A truly formidable adversary. This internal victory is the prerequisite for any external triumph. Number 6. The art of influence. Power is never seized by chance. It is taken by influence. And influence is the ability to bend minds, shape decisions, and guide outcomes without ever revealing the strings you pull. This is the subtle art of the puppet master, where the audience applauds the performance, unaware of the unseen hand. Most people think influence is about talking louder, demanding attention, or being aggressively assertive. But that is the tactic of fools who mistake noise for power, an amateur's blunder that reveals their hand prematurely. True influence is subtle, invisible, and unstoppable, a gentle current that guides without resistance, a suggestion that becomes an internalized command. It begins with understanding human nature at its core, stripped of all sentimental illusions. People are driven by primal forces: fear, desire, pride, and the hunger for belonging. They are inherently insecure, constantly seeking guidance, even if they pretend otherwise. Machiavelli, ever the realist, wrote that men are fickle, ungrateful, and easily deceived. And history, from ancient empires to modern geopolitical shifts and market bubbles, proves him right. The masses will always follow the one who appears strongest, who feeds their deepest desires, who manipulates their fears, or who creates the most compelling narrative, regardless of its truth. To master influence, you must learn to appeal to these primal forces while appearing noble, trustworthy, or even selfless. This is the strategic deployment of the big lie in a way that serves your objectives. You must wear masks, one for allies, another for rivals, another for the crowd. Each mask serves a specific purpose, eliciting a desired response. Yet behind them all, your true face remains hidden, calculating, unburdened by the persona you project. Influence in business means making others think your ideas are theirs. A subtle planting of seeds that blossom into your desired outcome. Influence in relationships means holding the frame so tightly that others orbit around your presence, their priorities subtly aligning with yours. Influence in society means projecting authority without ever begging for it. A quiet confidence that commands respect and adherence. The Stoic mind helps here, because to influence others effectively, you must not be ruled by your own ego, your own need for recognition. You must read them, reflect their desires, and bend their wills while remaining untouched inside. Your core identity unswayed by the charade. Influence is also about timing. You do not press when resistance is high. That only creates friction. You wait until the wall is weak, until the moment of vulnerability. Then you push once, subtly, and it crumbles. You do not demand loyalty. You create conditions where betrayal is unthinkable, where their self-interest aligns perfectly with yours. You do not fight for control. You create illusions that make people hand you control willingly, believing it to be their own choice. This is dark psychology in action. The strategic use of empathy not to genuinely connect, but to understand and exploit vulnerabilities. The deployment of charisma not to bond authentically, but to dominate and disarm. The cultivation of trust not to protect, but to ensnare. This is the subtle art of geopolitical maneuvering, where alliances are formed not on shared values, but on shared interests and mutual dependencies, expertly influenced by powerful actors. Influence also extends beyond people. It is how you shape environments, perceptions, and narratives. It is how you turn silence into pressure, knowledge into leverage, presence into intimidation, all without a single overt act of aggression. And the greatest part? Most people will never even realize they are being influenced. They will call it coincidence, fate, even free will, clinging to the illusion of their autonomy, while every step they take was subtly nudged by your unseen hand. Influence is the highest form of intelligence because it allows you to control reality without brute force, without overt displays of power that invite resistance. It allows you to become the hidden variable, the unacknowledged architect of your world. So I want you to declare your claim to this law in the comments right now. My words are my empire. Write it. Because once you understand influence, you are no longer just a participant in the game. You are the game master, and the world moves exactly as you choose, a testament to your unseen power. Number 7. The power of patience and timing. Impatience is the weakness of the masses, a gaping vulnerability exploited by every shrewd operator. Timing is the weapon of kings, strategists, and those who truly understand the long game. Most people rush into arguments, into business deals, into relationships, into decisions because their hunger for immediate results blinds them to the reality that true power is built not in speed, but in precision, in the exquisite calibration of action to opportunity. They are caught in the exploitation trap of instant gratification, constantly chasing the quick win, only to find themselves outmaneuvered by those who think in decades, not days. This is where geopolitical strategy shines, where nations wait for decades to solidify influence, to shift global power balances, understanding that the greatest victories are never rushed. Machiavelli warned that fortune must be taken at the right moment, like a woman who resists until you strike with force at the perfect opportunity. And this is the essence of timing. waiting until your opponent has made the decisive mistake, until the market has revealed its opening, until public sentiment or political tides have shifted in your favor, and then moving with ruthless, surgical speed. In war, patience lets you exhaust the enemy, stretch their resources, erode their morale before you strike the decisive blow. In politics, patience lets you watch allies destroy each other, consuming their own power, before you rise, untouched and ready to assume control. In business, patience allows you to let competitors burn themselves out, pursuing unsustainable growth, while you conserve strength, build reserves, and then strike for the decisive blow, acquiring their market share, their talent, or their intellectual property. Patience is not passive. It is the highest form of strategy, a cold, calculated waiting game. It is the ability to remain still while everyone else scatters in panic, reacting to every fleeting crisis. It is the discipline to remain calm while storms rage around you, knowing that every storm eventually passes. It is the strength to hold your blade unsheathed until the throat is exposed, until the moment of maximum leverage. Stoicism teaches that time destroys the frantic man, but rewards the calculating one. If you can wait, if you can outlast the impulsive and the reactive, the world will eventually hand you everything, because time is the greatest ally of the disciplined. Those who understand geopolitical shifts know that some strategies take generations to unfold, like the patient cultivation of trade routes or the slow erosion of a rival's influence. But timing also applies to your personal life, to every interaction. Knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. When to advance in a relationship and when to strategically withdraw, creating an unsettling void. When to risk everything and when to appear humble, unassuming. When to reveal your power and when to conceal it behind a mask of normalcy. The man who masters timing becomes untouchable because he never fights battles on enemy terms. He dictates the battlefield, the hour, the terms of engagement. Dark psychology reveals that patience unnerves others because they crave reaction. They crave closure. They crave predictability. And when you deny them these things, when you exist in a state of calculated delay, they begin to collapse under the weight of uncertainty, revealing their hand, making mistakes born of impatience. Think of the predator in the wild. It waits, watching, motionless for hours, perfectly camouflaged, while prey grows careless, comfortable, and then it moves once, a blur of efficiency, and the hunt is over. This is the law you must embrace. Never rush, never chase, never beg. Wait, watch, calculate, and strike only when victory is certain, when the odds are overwhelmingly in your favor. If you live by this, you will never lose because you will never fight battles you cannot win, battles initiated by your own impatience. Comment this truth below to carve it into your mind. I strike when the world is ready, not when I am impatient. Because patience is not weakness. It is cold, merciless power, the ultimate advantage in a reactive world. Number 8. The shield of emotional independence. The greatest chains ever forged are not made of iron or steel. They are woven from the need for approval, validation, and emotional dependency. Most men are prisoners of other people's opinions, slaves to acceptance, desperate for love, applause, recognition, or even pity. They are constantly seeking external affirmation, believing the big lie that their worth is determined by the perceptions of others. And because of this profound weakness, this gaping vulnerability, they are easily controlled, easily manipulated, and easily destroyed. Their entire existence becomes an attempt to please, to conform, to avoid disapproval, leaving them perpetually unsatisfied and fundamentally powerless. But if you want to become truly untouchable, if you want to think, act, and live smarter than 99% of the population, you must build the shield of emotional independence, the stoic armor that makes you immune to both flattery and insult. Machiavelli, with characteristic brutal honesty, warned that rulers who seek to be loved will always be betrayed, for love is fleeting and conditional, easily turned to hatred. While those who demand fear and respect endure, because fear is a constant deterrent, and respect, when earned, is remembered. In life, emotional independence is the rarest and most potent currency. When you no longer need anyone's validation, you become dangerous because you cannot be bribed by compliments, nor broken by criticism. Your actions are driven by internal conviction, not external pressure. In relationships, this makes you magnetic because those who cannot sway you will crave your unshakable presence, and those who cannot own you will respect you. You become the immovable object around which others define themselves. In business, it makes you unshakable because clients, bosses, and rivals cannot play with your ego. They cannot lure you with praise or destroy you with disapproval. Your strategic objectives remain paramount, unclouded by emotional need. In personal growth, it makes you limitless because your path is guided by your own inner compass, your vision, not the fickle applause or scorn of the crowd, allowing you to venture where others fear to tread. Emotional independence is not coldness for its own sake. It is strength. It is the ability to feel emotions deeply, to understand their strategic utility, but never allow them to dictate your choices or your self-worth. It is the radical acceptance that your value is intrinsic, not derived from external sources. Dark psychology reveals that manipulators prey on attachment, on the hunger for belonging, on the desperate need to be liked. They identify this weakness and exploit it relentlessly, weaving a web of dependence. But if you cut that cord within yourself, if you truly sever your reliance on external validation, their weapons shatter against you. Imagine a man who hears praise and feels nothing, who hears insult and feels nothing, who hears threats and feels nothing. How do you control him? You don't. He controls you because his internal state is impervious to your external machinations. This shield must be forged in all areas of life, rigorously, relentlessly. In love, never beg, for begging only empowers the one you plead with. In friendship, never cling, for desperate clinging repels genuine connection. In business, never depend on any single client or opportunity, for dependence creates vulnerability. In society, never conform to popular opinion or fleeting trends if they do not serve your strategic objectives. Build your value from discipline, knowledge, power, and vision, and anchor it so deeply inside that no external force, no flattery, no criticism, no betrayal can shake it. This is stoic masculinity at its peak. Not the absence of care, but the presence of unshakable control over your inner world. To live like this is to live untouchable, a fortress among fragile glass towers, immune to the emotional warfare waged by the masses. The weak will call you heartless, but secretly, they will envy you. For freedom from emotional slavery is the rarest and most intoxicating freedom of all. And I want you to prove you understand this truth. Comment below, "My worth is mine alone." Write it, claim it, declare it. Because until you anchor this law in your bones, you will always be owned by someone else's opinion, by the fleeting whims of the crowd, by the strategic manipulations of those who understand your dependency. But once you own yourself fully, you hold a shield no sword can pierce, and you become the man no one can move against his will, the ultimate master of your own destiny. Number 9. The power of ruthless adaptability. The world does not reward the strongest nor the most intelligent in isolation. It rewards the most adaptable, the one who bends with storms yet never breaks, the one who shifts strategies as easily as a predator changes hunting grounds, always seeking the path of least resistance or greatest advantage. Most people cling to rigid identities, fixed beliefs, and predictable routines, believing in the big lie that consistency is always a virtue. This makes them easy to read, easy to outmaneuver, and tragically, easy to destroy. They become brittle in the face of change, unable to pivot when circumstances demand it. Their inflexibility is their ultimate undoing, an open invitation to be exploited by those who embrace fluidity. But the man who masters adaptability is untouchable, because he is water, shapeless, formless, impossible to trap, yet powerful enough to carve stone, to erode mountains over time. He is a living lesson in strategic evolution. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is like a river, ever flooding and changing course. And only those who can build channels, who can redirect its flow, who can anticipate its shifts, survive and thrive. Adaptability is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength because it allows you to remain unshaken in chaos, to pivot instantly when circumstances demand it, to abandon what no longer serves you without hesitation, without the emotional attachment that cripples others. In business, it means you can reinvent yourself, learning new skills, shifting industries, seizing opportunities where others freeze in fear, clinging to outdated models. It's the difference between Blockbuster and Netflix, between static industries and dynamic disruptors. In relationships, it means you can read the shifting tides of attraction, dominance, and power, adjusting your moves to maintain control instead of clinging to illusions of how things should be. You understand that relationships are fluid power dynamics, not static contracts. In conflict, whether personal or geopolitical, it means you can change tactics in real time, confusing enemies who expect you to remain predictable, who have studied your old playbook. You become an ever-moving target, impossible to pin down. Adaptability also applies profoundly to your inner world. You must adapt how you think, how you learn, how you grow, constantly questioning your own assumptions, discarding beliefs that no longer serve your ascent. The man who locks himself inside outdated ideas or fragile identities becomes a fossil, a relic of a bygone era, while the adaptable man evolves endlessly, always one step ahead, always on the leading edge of change. Dark psychology shows us that people are terrified of change. It disrupts their comfort, challenges their pre-existing narratives, and exposes their insecurities. And that fear makes them cling to routines, to toxic people, to weak habits, to familiar narratives even when they are destructive. But if you embrace change like a weapon, if you anticipate and even instigate it, you will dominate those who resist it, those trapped in the exploitation trap of inertia. Stoicism adds the final edge. Accept that the world is chaos. Accept that ultimate control is an illusion, and instead of resisting, flow with it. Bend it. Use it. The storm that breaks the rigid tree cannot break the flexible reed. To live with ruthless adaptability is to ensure that nothing can ever corner you. You always have another move, another mask, another strategy, another path. This makes you impossible to predict. And unpredictability is power, because what cannot be anticipated cannot be countered. Think of history's most dangerous rulers, generals, and conquerors. They were not rigid. They were fluid, always reinventing, always surprising, always reshaping the battlefield to suit themselves, leveraging unforeseen circumstances. If you want to be smarter than 99% of men, this is the secret. Never tie your identity to a single role. Never chain your fate to a single path. Never worship the past at the expense of the present opportunity. Adapt like a shadow. Strike like a storm. Vanish like smoke. Return like fire. No one can cage what cannot be pinned down, what constantly transforms and eludes capture. This is the essence of true strategic agility, a dynamic state of being that ensures your survival and ascent in any environment. And to etch this law into your blood, comment this phrase right now. I bend, but I do not break. Write it, internalize it, live it. Because adaptability is the closest thing to immortality in the brutal game of power. The man who adapts without hesitation is the man who cannot be defeated, only transformed, emerging stronger from every challenge. Number 10. The legacy of cold power. Power is not about temporary victories or fleeting moments of dominance. It is about legacy, about building a presence so unshakable that even when you are not in the room, your influence shapes it. Even when you are gone, your shadow remains. A testament to an indomitable will and a strategic mind. Most men waste their lives chasing approval, money, or comfort, falling into the exploitation trap of valuing temporary gains over enduring impact. They chase superficial success, mistaking visibility for influence, fleeting recognition for lasting power. But those who think like predators, like rulers, like grand tacticians, understand that true greatness lies in constructing a life of cold power. A life where every move is deliberate, every decision calculated, every relationship weighed for its strategic utility, every enemy neutralized, and every opportunity exploited with clinical precision. Cold power means you do not rush for recognition. You build silently, brick by brick, laying foundations that others can only dream of. You operate in the shadows, cultivating unseen assets, until the structure is so strong that no earthquake of betrayal or storm of chaos can topple you. It means you rigidly separate emotion from strategy, never letting your heart write checks your mind cannot cash, never allowing sentiment to compromise your long-term vision. It means you treat life as a chessboard and yourself as the grandmaster, always 3 steps ahead, always willing to sacrifice pawns, whether they be superficial friendships, fleeting pleasures, or even public opinion, to protect your king, your ultimate objectives. But it also means balance, because power without wisdom collapses into tyranny, and wisdom without action dies as mere philosophy. The big lie of modern society is that you can have power without making difficult, often ruthless choices. Cold power disavows this. Across every aspect of life, your health, your finances, your relationships, your mind, you must think in decades, not days. Discipline in the body creates intimidation and respect, making you a physical embodiment of control. Mastery of knowledge makes you a weapon among sheep, your insights cutting through the prevailing ignorance. Control of emotions makes you unbreakable, immune to the psychological warfare of the world. Influence over others makes you a king, guiding narratives and actions from behind the veil. Patience and ruthless adaptability ensure your throne lasts, weathering every storm, outmaneuvering every challenger. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. And the truth, in its stark reality, is that cold power makes you both. It earns fear from your rivals, a primal respect for your capabilities, and profound respect from those wise enough to follow. For they recognize the strategic genius at play. Dark psychology sharpens this truth. People will always betray when it serves them, always envy when you rise, always resist when you take control, because most are driven by self-interest and a fear of genuine authority. So you must move as if expecting betrayal. Prepare as if enemies are already at the gates, and strike as if hesitation does not exist. This mindset does not make you paranoid. It makes you invincible, forearmed against the inevitable human flaws that derail lesser men. Stoicism adds the final, unyielding edge. Cold power is not about endless greed, but about mastery of self, mastery of fate, and mastery of time. The man who cannot be broken by loss, cannot be distracted by pleasure, and cannot be stopped by fear is the man who outlasts every rival. The man who carves his name into the annals of power. Cold power is the art of being untouchable. Not because you hide from the world, but because you move through it like steel through flesh, cutting, shaping, dominating, leaving an indelible mark. And when you live by these 10 laws, detachment, silence, controlled emotion, strategic observation, self-discipline, influence, patience, emotional independence, ruthless adaptability, and the pursuit of cold power, you transform from man into force. You become the storm. You become the shadow. You become the codex. So, I want you to mark this final lesson in the comments. Declare it as your oath, your unyielding commitment. I am untouchable. Write it. Let the world see it. Let it be an anchor in your mind, because the moment you claim it is the moment you begin to live it. And if you felt the weight of these words, if you see the undeniable power of these truths, then do not just watch and disappear back into the herd. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. This is not entertainment. It is your arsenal. Claim it, use it, become untouchable.